is Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie.
And we're going to take your calls next hour with David Bettenhausen and Carla Bogny-Kidd as we talk about their past life experiences. Just remarkable. 29, at least 29 that they can track. Well, we went over 112,000 signed-up members at ParanormalDate.com. We're now going for 113,000. We're 977 people shy of that. Free to sign up. Give it a try at ParanormalDate.com.
And we're going to get to that number before you know it. Now, if you're 60 plus and you want someone a bit more mature, we've got you covered there, too. Just head over to ParanormalDate.com/seniors, and there you'll find people that are 60 plus and they think like you do. Very important. ParanormalDate.com/seniors.
At ParanormalDate.com, you meet the most fantastic people.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm here to meet someone who understands me.
How so?
Well, I'm into UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot, conspiracy theories, the paranormal, that kind of stuff. But you seem to find anyone who gets it.
Oh, well, nice to meet you, Tom. I gotta go.
Okay, guess that's not your cup of tea. You sure?
Here, good luck with that.
I can't leave anyone out, and I really can't find a website for my unique business. What do I do?
Have you thought about ParanormalDate.com?
Oh, what? Who are you?
I'm a paranormal matchmaker, and it's ParanormalDate.com. It's a website for people looking for people like them. Stuff you like, remember?
I'll give it a try.
Well, let's try this again.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Hey, I'm Deb. Your profile on ParanormalDate.com looks very interesting. So you really saw a UFO?
Well, yeah. It was so intense, but not as intense as me and you.
You're an alien chasing flirt, but I kind of like it.
Wow, this ParanormalDate.com thing really works.
Maybe ParanormalDate.com is for you. People with an interest in things they hear on George's show find their match daily. So if you're looking for that special someone with an interest in UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot, conspiracy theories, and of course, the paranormal, come to the dating site inspired by George Norrie. It's always free to search, and if you decide to upgrade to our amazing new features, use promo code GEORGE for a great discount. ParanormalDate.com. You are not alone.
Summer is a great time for excitement, and whether it's leaving your worries behind, going on vacation for a few days, or just living in your comfort zone, try something new today with HelloFresh. You're going to have some fun with this. HelloFresh, you can try new dishes without the usual hassles of cooking something for the first time. No puzzling over complicated directions or hunting down ingredients that you'll only use once, and no need to put grocery shopping and meal planning on your summer calendar. HelloFresh now offers 15 menu and market items to choose from each week. And the new recipes constantly are being added, so there's always something new to try. They're great meal options for every occasion, inspired by different cuisines. Even quick dinners, 10-minute lunches, perfect for switching things up. And the pictures are easy to follow directions, pre-measured ingredients. Each dish is easier to make than the last, and you get better and better, and it's really fun doing it. Go to HelloFresh.com/George14. You would like that when you're in that website, use code George14 with the number 14 and get up to 14 free meals plus free shipping. So that's code George14 at HelloFresh.com/George14.
You've been lied to. Lied to by corrupt Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine. Hi, I'm Inc. magazine best-selling author Brett Kitchen, and I want to give you a free copy of my brand new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because we all know another market crash could be right around the corner. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough, and since then I discovered a way to grow money potentially double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits, you lose nothing. Call Wealth Beyond Wall Street now to get your free copy and talk with assessors to discover this little-known strategy to get potential double-digit growth during good years and never lose when the next stock market crash hits, all while building a tax-advantaged retirement. Call 800-908-1616 to discover this asset that people like Walt Disney and J.C. Penney use to grow wealthy. Plus, get one of just 97 free books left. We even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call 800-908-1616. That's 800-908-1616. 1-800-908-1616.
And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie back with you, along with David Bedenhausen and Carla Bogny-Kidd, as we talk about their incredible past life experiences. David, at least 29 that you've been able to track with Carla, but why? Have you come up with an answer for that?
George, it's a number of reasons. The first one would be that Carla and I worked so well together that we're meant to be there. We had our first life together almost 6,000 years ago. We are also supposed to write these books, try to get this message out. You know, during this time we met, like I said, Carla's mother. We also met my spirit guide, Isabella. We met Carla's spirit guide, Elizabeth. And we've experienced God and God energy and God's love during all of this process. So part of this is the need to get the message out. And we really learned, so again, our books all have the Mother Isabella, God, and Elizabeth in the subtitle, because all of those entities have been, we've experienced. And Isabella early on started to give us little lessons. And she said the easiest and the first lesson is that there really are 5 simple rules for living, and they're all related to your karma. But the rules are: live without conceit, jealousy, selfishness, and unforgiveness, and make all decisions out of the intention for love. Those first 4, the conceit, jealousy, selfishness, and unforgiveness, all are really those things that cause karma.
Yeah.
And love is those, and they're part of our ego, that darker side of humanity, if you want to call it. And when you do things out of love, you really break that karmic tie. You can overcome. And actually, it's possible to someday get off the karmic wheel and finish this existence and return back as the love you were created.
I'm beginning to think, too, that once we have passed over, I think we may, as souls, have the right to pick our own type of reincarnation, and maybe you two together are doing it jointly on the other side.
Well, there's certainly a lot of theories related to that, and we've experienced some of the times between lives when we've been meditating, or we've now had past life regression training, and so we've seen some of the other people's times between lives. And it's not quite as easy that you get to make all those choices, George. First of all, some of the things are set up for you, because otherwise you're not going to. It needs to be coordinated, because there are 7,000 people that die every hour, and there are something like 20-some thousand people that are born every hour. You know, you may make part of those plans and you get some input, but you don't get to make all the decisions, because all of these people have to interact and tie together so that their karma matches.
What happens, though, David, if you die years before Carla dies in a reincarnated life until the next one, for example? What happens?
Well, many different things happen that we found, George. So some of the time we found that sometimes you will just wait until your soul group all sort of recycles back through again. We've also found instances in our past lives where we've returned because the other person, you know, if you die as a child and Carla dies, 60 years later,
yeah,
you can get off cycle, if that makes sense.
Right, because you could have reincarnated again by that time.
Correct. And so sometimes there have been times when we're not in the next life. It might be 2 lives.
Ah, okay. All right.
So it starts to flow that way. We were talking about there's a time when very early on where Carla actually poisons me in a life.
Oh, no.
Well, the next couple lives I actually return and she's not there. Okay. So those kind of experiences happen. You know, that's why I was saying that.
Well, she poisoned you. You might not want her there.
Well, I've discovered that she's a wonderful person, and that we all have times when we make choices that are not the best choices.
Right. That was a bad life. That one, whatever it was.
We've all been saints and sinners. In that particular life, it was in Egypt, very early on, and he was my husband, and he was freeing the slaves, and I believed that it was going to ruin our reign. We wouldn't have money, we wouldn't have power. So my son convinced me to poison him, so I did. And in religion, you're always taught that you go through atonement when you die.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the reincarnation world, you use the term your life review. And when you die, you're shown like a movie of your past life and all of the feelings that you inflicted on others, whether it was good feelings or bad feelings, or as we like to say, positive or negative feelings. And during that time, you realize, you know, what was smart and what was not smart. And based on that, and based on the level of learning you need to have from the past life, will be the time that you spend in your life review. So consequently, I sat for 980 years waiting to come back, and Dave was able to have a couple of lives after that.
Now, eventually, though, Carla, one of you or both of you will stop reincarnating because you've reached that level, and you won't have to reincarnate anymore. What happens when it's you and not David?
Well, we're really hoping that it's both of us at the same time. Maybe this is our last hurrah. Maybe our books, in telling people the way it really works, and kind of erasing all of the, how do I want to put this? There's a lot of information that we're all programmed with from the time that we're born, and it's out of fear, and it's unnecessary, and it's due to religious control. None of that is necessary. So through our books, we're trying to show people that God is not mean and spiteful. God is not a jealous God that needs to control all of your thoughts and actions. We're given free will, because with free will, we learn love. We learn love for each other. We learn love for God. And then with that choice, through making that choice, we return back to God, and we don't have to get back on that karmic wheel. And Dave and I are hoping this time that we do it. Hopefully we understand that all of those negative decisions that we make fall into one of those groups of either being conceited, jealous, selfish, unforgiving. Hopefully we get rid of our ego, and we see that we're all connected, we're all one, and the idea is to just love everybody and not judge them.
David, can you explain, because you've done it at least 29 times, the dying process? Once somebody is physically dead, what happens?
And George, well, I have some very specific memories. There is a past life that is in 700 BC that I have a memory of a little girl that dies. It's not Carla, it's another little girl in that life. And she's very forgiving. And so in that life when I died, and in every life since that time, she shows up when I die and helps pass me over. It's one of those things that, if you want to call them God's jobs for God down the line, there are some roles that you can take in the afterlife to help people. And this young girl's name was Shanta. When in the Ruby and JJ story, this is the first time that I experienced this, I actually see the world get dark, and it slowly disappears, sort of like some people remember when they're talking about NDEs and those kind of things, the light sort of gets smaller and smaller, then it opens up. And I literally feel this little black hand reach down and take my hand. And suddenly I'm being pulled through space, time, and eternity, and lights are shooting by, and I'm traveling sort of outside of time and space.
No pain.
No pain. It looks like to me that I'm traveling behind golden wings that are flying toward heaven, but I won't say it's up, it's just out.
Mm-hmm.
And I am sort of disoriented for 3 days. And during that time, if you realize, you suddenly don't have normal senses.
And is it this way all the time? I mean, of every 29 at least deaths you've had, it's the same way?
The same experience happened for those 3 days. I'm a little disoriented because I don't see, smell, hear those things to start with until you sort of acclimate to that non-sensory, if you want to call it telepathic sort of experience. And then I start to see a council of 12 that are sitting in front of me, and they're showing me past lives, and they're telling me, this is what you should have learned, this is where you made a mistake,
mm-hmm.
or an error,
mm-hmm.
or a negative choice. And so if I was at war and I shot somebody, they'll show me what their family felt like when they lost their loved one, so that I have a chance to learn compassion. I'm then assigned another astrological sign with certain traits and characteristics that will help me in my next life. I'm getting an assignment for an archetype and a trait which needs to also help mold that person, so when I return, I'm me plus a little added things that help draw me to others, so that I'm drawn to certain situations. You know, for Carla and I, it's that we're always meant to meet, that we're going to be drawn back together. And so some of those traits, archetypes, our astrological signs have pulled us back together. You know, in this life, even though she grew up in Massachusetts and I grew up in Nebraska, we met in Ohio.
For real?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a draw that pulls us back together, so that we have those things that we need to work out together.
Did you know each other when you met? In Ohio?
You know, it's interesting because we clicked as just like best friends, just like that. It was like this moment, I walked in looking to buy the practice and sat down, and Carla was the office manager, and we were friends just like that. And she's been my best friend ever since.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. You went to medical school. Why do we reincarnate? What are we supposed to learn?
All right, we're really supposed to learn compassion and love. And if, you know, we're created perfect as a loving creature or entity. However, we're placed in a world where we have to compete to survive. And if you look at mankind in the long run, we're placed in a world that's very hostile, where survival of the fittest occurs, competition for everything. However, that means early on we actually had to compete with each other and nature and animals just for food, warmth, survival. But as mankind evolves, we're learning that if it's really cooperation and compassion for others that makes mankind evolve and move forward. So, as a species, we are actually evolving. You know, people say, well, sounds like my life is still horrible. Well, if you look at mankind in whole, we're actually living in the most peaceful time in all of human history. Violent deaths is the lowest per percentage of humans that it's ever been. War is very limited. We actually live in a world now where cooperation and working with each other is easier. Hunger is at the all-time low, and the prosperity of the average human on Earth is at its highest ever. This is a world that is improving. Now, you might not always believe that when you listen to media and television.
No, that's true.
You know,
or hear some of these world events.
Yes, when you look at world events, well, the reality is we see the world events that we didn't see 200,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago. You didn't see any other world events. All you knew 2,000 years ago was that you actually had to get up, plant your own food, hunt for your own food, make your own clothes, start your own fires, build your own home.
Go get your own water.
Yes, it was an existence that was survival from when you got up in the morning until you went to bed. And, you know, life expectancies were 30 or 40 years. Health, you know, if you got TB, you die. You know, things like that we don't have now. And so the world is actually evolving in the right direction through learning, love, and compassion. And the lesson for all of us is that we have to start making a difference. Because not only do you return into the next life, but your children are going to return into the next life. And if you believe in reincarnation, you're leaving this world to yourself.
Are you glad you've had so many past lives?
Yes, because the other side of this is you now learn that you are eternal.
There's no question about that. David, we're going to take a break. I'll come back with you and Carla in a moment. Plus, we're going to open up the phone lines to give you an opportunity to chat with our amazing audience about past life regression, about the dying process as well. We shall be back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.
Find out more about tonight's guest. Log on to coasttocoastam.com.
From 6 to 10 on KFI. Contractor license 1047-781. Hey, Ken and Winnie, what Rick told us is pretty cool.
It's Ken. You know it's Ken. I need to hear you say Ken.
Rick runs Ghetto Academy, where we train plumbers and AC techs.
Rick told me something that made me so happy I had to wipe tears off my cheeks.
A student said, I knew working at Ghetto was going to be a great opportunity, but I didn't know it was going to change my life.
That's what it's all about, Wacky Zacky.
When you work at Ghetto, you know you matter.
You know you're making a difference.
Your customers and your coworkers love to see you coming,
and they miss you when you're gone.
Other companies expect you to upsell the customer.
But Ghetto Techs have only one job. Make the customer happy they call us and trust us to fix their problem.
Ken sits down with all the new people once a month and talks about the future, and answers all their questions, and learns all their names.
I sit down with everybody once a month to hear what's on their mind.
You come to work for Ghetto, GOE-TTL.
You'll be happier than you've ever been.
It was a beautiful June morning in Southern California.
Birds were chirping, the sun was shining.
And somewhere on a quiet residential street, a sink was clogging.
The couple experiencing the clog,
Mr. and Mrs. JP,
did something they had never done before. They called the Smell Good plumbers at Mike Diamond.
I'm Mike Diamond. I guarantee my plumbers will show up on time and unclog your sink for $99.
the technician flushing showed up promptly and unclogged the sink.
A few months later, a much more intensive problem turned up in the bathroom.
Mr. JP called Mike Diamond again. They worked up a plan and the repair was made.
Mr. and Mrs. JP felt good enough about the experience to sit down and write us an email.
They commended the Smell Good plumbers on their service and closed by saying they would use Mike Diamond on future services and recommend them to anyone in need of plumbing repairs.
We love Mr. and Mrs. JP, and we'd love for you to read their testimonial and more before calling your next plumber. The address is MikeDiamond.com, or just call us at 1-800-446-MIKE. Contractor's license number 399170.
If it doesn't affect you, we're not interested. KFI AM 640 Los Angeles, Orange County.
And KOSD HD2.
It's 5 a.m. What did you miss?
It's time for Wake Up Call with Jennifer Jones-Lee.
Well, good morning. Kind of some weird weather out there. Did you wake up to some sprinkles on your car? I know I did, and I thought, oh, the sprinklers get out of control last night. Then I looked at the trash cans on the street. I was like, nope, I guess not. Anyway, so today we've got highs just from the low 70s to the mid 80s, but there is a chance of a weird little shower. It'll be a bit warmer as the week goes on, and by the weekend, highs will be back up into the mid 90s. Here are the stories we're following for this June 23rd on your wake-up call. Well, the CHP says officers have shot and killed the driver of a stolen big rig after he led them on a chase on the 10 freeway. There are going to be lots of traffic implications with that one. We'll talk with Karen. Karen, how about Robin? In just a few minutes, we will talk with Karen Travers. President Biden's expected to deliver remarks today regarding his administration's stance on gun safety. We'll get a preview of what the president is expected to say and also what he's expected to sort of focus on when it comes with policing. Pop star Britney Spears is due to address the LA judge who is overseeing her conservatorship case today. And at least one person is in the hospital after being run over by a herd of cows that broke out of a slaughterhouse in Pico Rivera. I'll tell you more about that story in just a second. Let's start with some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. The CHP says officers have shot and killed the driver of a stolen big rig after he led them on a chase on the 10 freeway. The cops say the driver was on the wrong side of the freeway and ran their vehicles at a roadblock that had been set up. The chase started in San Bernardino. It ended in Fontana, where the freeway has been shut down in both directions. We'll get more on your traffic impact when we talk with Robin Banks in just a few minutes. Well, a confidential settlement has been reached with the company that operated the helicopter involved in the crash that killed Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others in Calabasas. Vanessa Bryant and relatives of the others killed in 2020 sued Island Express Helicopters for wrongful death. Terms of the settlement have not been revealed. The agreement needs court approval. Well, I'm sure Britney Spears will be looking for a sign when the pop star addresses an LA judge who is overseeing her conservatorship today. It has to do with the arrangement to control Spears' professional and personal life. Now remember, her dad and a trust fund are the co-conservators of her estate, and they share management of her business affairs. We'll keep an eye on this story throughout the day. And also there is the whole Free Britney movement. And you know that those folks will be out in force in front of the courthouse today, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Such a weird story. At least one person is in the hospital after being run over by a herd of cows that broke out of a slaughterhouse in Pico Rivera. At least 40 cows got out last night. This witness tells KTLA he saw them running through the streets.
I wasn't scared because cows cannot harm you. They could just like run for you.
Oh. They can hurt you, young man. I have stories. Authorities say they had to kill one of the cows because it kept charging a family. The animals were eventually rounded up and taken back to the meat packing plant. A passenger on a flight at LAX has been fined more than $10,000 for not wearing his mask and refusing to get off the phone.
The FAA says the flight was on the runway headed to Sacramento. 2 flight attendants asked the guy to get off his phone and put on his mask, but the feds say he started cursing at them to go away. The plane ended up returning to the gate in February so the guy could be escorted off. The FAA says since January there have been more than 3,000 reports of unruly passengers, which have resulted in almost $600,000 in fines. as a result of the FAA's zero-tolerance policy. More than 2,300 of those reports were people refusing to wear a face mask. Corbin Carson, KFI News.
And coming up in your Biz Bites a little later this morning, that guy might get off easy with a $10,000 fine. I've got other instances where some of the fines could be over $100,000. I'll tell you about those coming up at 5:50. LA County's put up a notice to evict the eviction moratorium.
Fred Sutton with the California Apartment Association says there are tenants who have been taking advantage of the moratorium at the expense of landlords.
While some renters continue to struggle, the extension fails to focus its protections on this shrinking population.
Supervisor Sheila Kuehl says the moratorium was a success and it's important to extend it through September with an eye toward phasing it out.
Tied to extension of resources to help our economically impacted tenants and property owners.
The extension comes with a provision allowing evictions in some cases where landlords or their families need to move back into single-family homes. Chris Ancarlo, KFI News.
And the LA City Council will consider adopting an ordinance to stop landlords from harassing tenants. The Anti-Harassment of Tenant Ordinance would stop landlords from eliminating services, delaying repairs, and refusing to accept rent payments. When we come back, we'll talk with ABC's Karen Travers about what the president plans to unveil today regarding gun violence. That's straight ahead. Right now, though, let's check a crash on the 5. Hi, Robin Banks. Sounds like it's a busy morning for you already.
It is a busy morning. It is. Did you see the moon this morning, too?
It was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. It was huge. It was so awesome. Okay. Let's go to Boyle Heights on the 5 northbound at 4th Street. Fatal crash investigation at this location. Only the left lane is open. Your travel is delayed right around the 60 with this one. Now, we were talking about this closure on the 10 between Fontana and Rialto. So the 10 is closed in both directions between Sierra and Cedar and Sierra. Police activity there. All the lanes are closed. You can get off and use Valley or Slover. So if you're westbound, you can get off at Pepper or Riverside. Eastbound, you want to bail at Citrus. Or, just the usual, use the 60 or the 210 instead. That police activity is going to go on until we don't know when. Torrance on the 110 southbound at Sepulveda Boulevard, hit and run there on the right shoulder. In Commerce on the 710 south at Washington, wreck with a big rig on the off-ramp. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Robin Banks.
5:06 on your wake-up call. Karen Travers, good morning to you. So the president is expected to deliver remarks today about his administration's stance on gun safety. What should we hear?
Yeah, the president today is going to unveil what the White House is calling a comprehensive strategy to target rising gun violence. Homicide rates are increasing as we get deeper into the summer months. And, the president is going to focus, I think, pretty heavily on guns in particular, rather than broader crime. The president will talk about targeting law-breaking gun dealers, so a zero tolerance policy for gun dealers who are breaking laws. The president will also say that the administration will provide several resources to local police departments for gun crime enforcement. Here's an important thing, and this is going to be interesting to see how he frames this. The White House says that the president will also say that communities can repurpose millions of dollars of federal COVID relief funding that they got from that bill he signed into law in March and use it for programs that have been proven to prevent gun violence. So there's like 2 buckets of money, $350 billion that state and local governments are getting, and $122 billion that was set aside for schools. The White House will say that they can take some of that money for local communities and put it towards summer jobs programs for young people, hiring more police officers, and spending that money on particular programs that are aimed at reducing gun violence.
Ooh, but I can only imagine that announcement's going to come with controversy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he says that can happen. How can he take that money that was put for one thing and use it for something else? And even that money itself was controversial back in March when they were negotiating the terms of that COVID bill. And I'm sure we talked about this because there were many Republicans who said that certain states and some cities didn't even need that money for COVID, that they were running surpluses and that they were okay, and this money was just kind of being thrown at them. Well, now the money is out there, and the White House will say today that cities can use it for this particular purpose. But, it's interesting. Yesterday the White House, I think, struggled to really explain why the president was doing this speech today. He's obviously very deep into infrastructure, but that's what the big thing is on Capitol Hill right now. There's been moderate movement on police reform legislation. So why this right now, especially given the criticism he's received from some Republicans? The White House is saying that this is a continuation of the president's support for gun control measures, and he wants to take this broad look at crime today.
Yeah, it's just weird. You're right. I thought that same thing. What? What are we talking about gun safety today? And then now you're putting in the mix. So first of all, you've thrown everybody a curve talking about gun safety, but now you're going to throw them a curve with what this money can be used for? I mean, why would you dip your toe into that?
That was one of the questions that were being asked yesterday at the briefing. And I don't think that there was one good answer, really, from Jen Psaki saying, this is why now, why today. And also think if you look at it from the politics of it, obviously this is a very important story for millions of Americans. It's a big deal in some big cities, yours included. But even just stepping back to the politics of it, this is something the president, getting criticism from Republicans. And the White House will say, well, crime didn't increase starting in January. It's been on this upward trajectory for the last several years. The pandemic, of course, is playing a big role in this. But, if it's something that you're getting a lot of criticism and heat for, but don't have a great solution because of limitations for what the federal government can do, why get into that today? That wasn't a great answer.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Hey, you too. See you later. ABC's Karen Travers. Why in the world would you do that? Why would you put yourself out there on a stage to announce something that you really... I mean, he better have a heck of an explanation today. Or he's leaving himself wide open to criticism. And not that a president should care about that. You do what you think is best for the country, obviously. And screw your haters, but... this seems so weird. The timing of it. That's left field. And then to, on top of it, announce, hey, remember that money we gave you for COVID relief? Now you can use that for other things. After the bill itself was so controversial. What is going on? This is where you take a step back and you look at a president's advisors and go, whose idea was that? Bob? It's your idea? Get back to some of the stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Speaking of the Biden administration, it says it will not meet its goal of having 70% of American adults get at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine by the 4th of July. In Florida, Pastor Marcel Davis is urging people to get the shot by actually going door to door.
I've gone to at least 24 funerals of people who've had COVID, but I often say I've not been to any funeral of someone who died from the vaccine.
White House officials say it will likely take several more weeks to reach their goal. A series of blood drives have been scheduled this summer in Orange County to help people with a shortage that could affect medical emergencies. UC Irvine Dr. Min Ha Tran says people will get gift cards and be entered to win prizes for donating.
The incentives are more to make things fun and as a thank you. But we encourage people to donate because, they're really going to be helping another human being in a time of dire need.
John says blood supply is typically low in the summer, but this year is worse because of the pandemic. He says people are still avoiding large events, others are returning for long-awaited elective surgeries, and there's an increase in trauma as more people are getting back out there. The LA County Board of Supervisors has passed a measure designed to offer more mental health help to the fire department. Supervisor Janice Hahn says the measure comes in response to the killing of a firefighter at a fire station by a fellow firefighter 3 weeks ago.
Our fire department employees have told us that they need support from peers and they need mental health clinicians who understand what they're going through.
The measure asks the fire department to come back to the board in a month with a plan for addressing workplace trauma. A study shows many people in California started day drinking more during the pandemic. The American Research Center says nearly 4 million residents say they started drinking alcohol before midday during the pandemic. 15% of people said they look forward to special occasions as an excuse to drink alcohol earlier in the day. And that absolutely makes sense to me. Honestly, I'm surprised it's not more than that. There were so many people who said, we have nothing else to do. We have nowhere to go. We have nothing to do. We're bored, or we're worried because we lost a job, or whatever. Honestly, 4 million seems low to me. LA County started to swing a wrecking ball in the direction of Men's Central Jail. Supervisor Hilda Solis has written a measure taking aim at a team that's tasked with tearing down a jail.
MCJ has been a Brody symbol and a stain on LA County that has caused generations of trauma, especially for Latinx and African American Angelinos.
The Board of Supervisors approved the motion yesterday. Sheriff Villanueva opposed the measure, saying the board overstepped its authority and closure will dump criminals on the streets. An LA city attorney has gone after the illegal fireworks supply chain. City Attorney Mike Fewer says he sent cease and desist letters to 4 websites and they all responded positively.
OfferUp, for example, actually expanded its workforce to work with us to diminish the number of those online sales from its platform. Others worked with their logarithms to change them as we detected problems.
Fewer says online sales of fireworks spiked during the pandemic. He says it's especially important to limit illegal fireworks this year because of the drought.